Shalom, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Raka Kodash, double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Akim. And this is your brother Abawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Raka Kodash, all praises and glory is due. And I'm struggling to figure out how to start this video, man. But let's just say that with this is what's currently going on in the UK right now, right? Showing you that Esau Edom knows exactly what is the righteous thing to do, but they choose not to do it. And even when they do, they still go off and do wickedly. So let's get that precept first. So that is the book of Ecclesiasticus, okay? Yeah, Ecclesiasticus. So let's go. So let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 14th chapter. Right, so this is the book of Ecclesiasticus 14, verse 5. Let's see, yeah, Ecclesiasticus 14, verse 5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods, right? And you always talk about the oppression of Esau Edom, right, and the evil of Esau Edom, rightfully so, because this is the devil of which the Bible speaks of course, right? And you can okay, and you can clearly see even without eyes, the level of wickedness that this devil is on, even to the point that even their fellow Edomites are not safe from the wickedness of Esau Edom. And you see, man, when Esau be kicking Esau's ass every other day, right? Esau is always plotting some kind of evil on their own people, right? But especially primarily on the Hebrew Israelites. But it cannot be just pushed aside the wicked practices that Esau does on his own people, basically leaving them to be collateral damage. That's why you see all these Edomite looking middle America devils, right, constantly crying for a new America and crying about how they can't afford this, they can't afford that, they can't afford this, that, oh, that this country used to be great. They're trying to make America great again and they're putting, Trump in office. But it shows you that even the elites of Esau Edom men have no compassion for their own people, right? And it's also inclusive in the policies that Esau pushes, because how can a righteous and sincere ruler allow feminism to run rampant, allow things like the alternative lifestyle situation to run rampant, right? These are things that show you that, man, this devil doesn't give a shit, man. This devil doesn't really care about his people and is 100% willing to allow his people to be destroyed in this in their own wickedness, right? So let's just leave it at that. So now, Ecclesiasticus 14, verse 5. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness, right? So even if we have been seeing this trend towards more conservative, right, more Christian and more biblical values from Esau Edom, whether it's the Roe v. Wade situation, right, with the US, but with the US, whether when they overturn the Roe v. Wade, or even with this Trump presidency, where basically the legislation is that, oh well, there are only two recognized genders, and you're seeing the same thing happen even in Europe as well, with different righteous legislations against the alternative lifestyle, or I should say seemingly righteous legislation against alternative lifestyles. And let's go to that article and this is an article from theguardian.com. Okay, Scottish government has no plans to bring back gender bill after court ruling. And basically this is the noise that's being made all over with the UK, or at least one of these United Kingdom governments, basically about making a bill that makes it so that there are only two recognized genders, right? And it's more it's more like they wrote a bill that the definition, or rather what the criteria of a woman does not include the T, right? The men that changed their plumbing, right? The men that were formerly known as men, right? The individual formerly identified as a man, right? These T's. So basically, the definition of a woman does not include the T's, and it reminds me of that old mouthwash movie, What is a Woman, right? And he went around the world and asking that question, and now and now you see that ultimately, when Esau is on the back foot, right? That's when you see these devils start to, push these kind of legislations, because let's make it clear. Esau is not doing this because he suddenly saw the light, right? Or because the spirit touched him and he wants to make a righteous legislation, or because he's trying to, right, reconcile with the Most High, right? This is not why Esau is doing this. Whenever Esau does something that seems righteous, okay, that's why I read that precept right there. That's why I read this precept right here now. Ecclesiasticus 4 verse 7, Ecclesiasticus 14 verse 7. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. Right. So even when Esau seems to do something righteous, you know that he isn't doing it of his own volition. And ultimately, in that, quote unquote, seemingly righteous thing that he is doing, you will see that it is for wickedness at the end of the day. Because it is only for the righteous that things can be done righteously, and it is only the righteous that can't do things righteously. But Esau, Edom, man, when these devils try to do something righteous, they are doing it for the sake of wickedness. And that's why the scriptures saying, right, these devils are estranged from the womb. These devils can never learn righteousness. So let's see, that should be the book of either Isaiah or Jeremiah, right? Isaiah 26 verse 10, I believe. There it is. Isaiah 26 verse 10. Let favor be shewed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly, and will not behold the majesty of the Most High. Yahweh Sham Yahweh. Right. So when you see different news articles like this, when Esau comes out and says, oh, well, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians are the Hebrew Israelites, right? Or they come out and, push, a bill or write legislation that is, righteous and against the wickedness that is constantly being promoted and pushed in this kingdom. You have to understand that they are not doing it for the sake of righteousness, but rather they are doing it for their own filthy, wicked gain, because these devils cannot be righteous, and there is no righteousness in Esau's kingdom. So yeah, let's get into this article. Scottish government has no plans to bring back gender bill after court ruling. Social Justice Secretary says Holyrood fully accepts Supreme Court ruling and will amend guidance. The Scottish government has no plans to return, and this is an article from Tuesday, the 22nd of April 2025. The Scottish government has no plan to return to its controversial bill on gender recognition. The high water mark of Nicola Sturgeon's progressive agenda, as it attempted to reassure the trans community that, quote unquote, you are valued. Right, like I said, and even though they say, oh well, this bill is such, that this is that, oh well, this bill, basically, um any all the different things that you have been seeing from the headlines, right? Because I'm trying to remember some of the headlines I saw about the bill, that this bill is basically against the T's, but really it is just, let's just keep reading. Let's just keep reading so you can see what I'm talking about. In the statement to MSPs on Tuesday, a on Tuesday afternoon, the Social Justice Secretary, Shirley Ann Somerville, said Holyrood fully accepts the judgment of the Supreme Court, which ruled against Scottish ministers last Wednesday in the culmination of a long-running federal action brought by the Campaign Group for Women Scotland. In a decision that was welcomed by gender critical activists, five judges ruled unanimously that the legal definition of a woman in the Equality Act 2010 did not include transgender women who hold gender recognition certificates, so GRC. For women, Scotland was challenging Scottish government legislation aimed at improving gender balance on public boards, which allowed trans women with a GRC to sit in posts reserved for women. That's ultimately what this bill was about. It was basically a feminist bill, right? So the feminists were jealous of the T's, right? Because the T's were using the fact that they were, you know, they changed their plumbing and they were accepted by the government to try to push into all these positions that the women believed were reserved for them. So this is basically a little civil war going on between the feminists and the T's in Scotland, because now, you know, when because now, when the Shidomite position is at risk, she now comes out and says, "Oh, those women over there that aren't real women, right?" Or what, but I thought that they were, hey, and that shows the confusion that is being pushed in Esau's kingdom and the wickedness that's being pushed in Esau's kingdom, and that deep down, man, these devils, they know what they are doing is wicked as hell, right? But you see, as we have already read, the hey, let's get know what's like, we haven't read that one yet, right? As we haven't read that one yet. The wicked are estranged from the womb. Let's get that. So this is the book of Psalms 58 verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And this is exactly what this is all about, right? So yeah, when I saw this bill, my first thought was, there Esau goes again doing wickedness, right? Because like I said, man, even if it looks like these devils are doing good, even if it looks like these devils are pushing for righteousness, it is not. It never is with Esau, man. They say that, they have a saying in the world that there are things that are constant, rather there are things that are inevitable, death and taxes, right? Well, that's all off, man. The only things that are inevitable are the Most High's judgment, and in this kingdom at least, Esau's wickedness. Because guess what? Even in this kingdom, right, death is still not inevitable, and taxes is just some shit that Esau made up to, basically what's what I'm looking for right now? Institutionalize your minds into paying that shit, you know. But in this kingdom, the only thing that is inevitable is the Most High Judge, or rather, the only thing that is unavoidable, and I don't really know the word that they use for it specifically, right? But the only constants in this kingdom are the Most High's judgment, right, and Esau's wickedness, right? Esau never fails to show that he is the wicked, which the Bible speaks of, and even these Shidomites, right? The female Edomites are on the same timing, okay? Because now you are thinking that, hey, these devils are trying to set some things in order in an attempt to repair their kingdom, but that's not what this is even about. And even more importantly, right, from the way this article reads, it's looking like this ruling is even just limited to public office. So basically, when it's talking about, basically, it's limited to public office, and it's even limited to a specific what's what I'm looking for, right? A specific part of the law, not the whole law. Basically, the Equality Act that they're talking about here, that was set up in 2010 in Scotland, that now they've adjusted any ruling that is made by the Equality Act. So basically, this only applies, right? This legislation only applies to um any law, right, or any ruling, right, or any decree or any bill or whatever that is under this Equality Act that these people are talking about, right? And I want to just quickly see what that Equality Act is going into. So let's get that. Just a quick and synopsis of what it is. So the Equality Act of 2010 is an act of Parliament of the United Kingdom passed during the Brown ministry with the primary purpose of consolidating, updating, and supplementing the did not even finish the definition here. So right, the Equality Act is an act of Parliament of the United Kingdom passed during the Brown administration with the primary purpose of consolidating, updating and supplementing the numerous prior acts and regulations that form the basis of anti-discrimination law in mostly England, Scotland, and Wales. Some sections also apply to Northern Ireland. These consisted of the primarily of the Equal Pay Act of 1970, the Sex Discrimination Act of 1975, the Race Relation Act of 1976, and the Disability Discrimination Act of 1995, and the three major statutory instruments protecting against discrimination in employment on grounds of sexual orientation, age, religion, or belief. Right. So this is a bill that isn't even just going to affect just the Scottish government, right, but the entire UK, and it's really just the definition of a woman under the Equality Act. And hey man, these are news articles are framing it like something that is a major loss or a major, blow to equality, and this and all kinds of excuses. This is how you know that Esau's kingdom is still wicked as hell, right? Because you see how the news media is framing it like it's some kind of tragedy, when all these devils are doing is trying to, you know, keep their positions intact for themselves, right? Because you see, the Shidomites is seeing how these Edomites just put on their skirt and be like, hey, I'm a woman now, let me get that position. That's basically really what's going on. This is more of an internal civil war between Esau, Edom, right? Him and his woman. And as the scriptures say, man, when
Are you slacking off
Satan,
again?
right,
Oh
be
no,
divided
I'm
against
making
Satan, let's
money.
get that.
Doing what? Watching content and getting paid for it. The whole team is glued to their phone scrolling through Chili. Chill with Chili and get $660 straight to your card.
So this is the book of Luke 11 verse 18. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because ye see that I cast out devils through Beelzebub, right? And the main point, of course, is the first part. If Satan be divided against Satan, how can his kingdom stand? That's exactly what you're saying, right? There's a division, in the interest of Esau, Edom, and that's how it's always been in Esau's kingdom. There's a division in the interest of Esau, man, because some of these Edomites, they are on one thing, and the other of the Edomites are on another thing. They have their own different goals that they are trying to go for, and you know that's why you're always seeing all these contradictory legislations being passed. That's why you're always seeing these different little bills being sneaked into their congress or their parliament or whatever, in order to push certain agendas, right? And even with the new thing that's going on right now in the US, where you have rumors of Trump talking about how he wants to, run for presidency in 2028 as well. Dude is like what, 80 something or so right now. And anyway, anyway, man, anyway, that's very doubtful that that will come to pass, right? Because hey, Lord willing, man, this is the last run for America by Babylon the Great. This is the last presidency that we have to deal with, or we have to endure in this wicked ass kingdom. Okay. So yeah, you see what's going on with Esau, man, and that's why whenever these devils always push any of these laws, right, or make any of these statements like, oh, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, they are the Israelites, or they are the Most High's chosen people, or the Most High loves them, or whatever else they want to say, right? You have to be side-eyeing these devils, man. No matter what Esau does, even if it's, no matter what Esau does, if it has the appearance of being righteous, right, you have to side eye these devils, okay? That's probably what I'll title this video. Side eye these devils. Let me see. Because initially I was going to entitle the video, hey, your ass is not getting healed, right? Let me just type that in. Because initially I was going to entitle this video, your house is still not getting healed, Esau, get ready to burn. So Ecclesiastes 12 verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Right? You can't trust these devils, man. You can't trust Esau, Edom. Okay, so let's get this precept next, because like I said, the original title I wanted to give this video is, you know, the ras is still not healed, get ready to burn, right? It's not just a very very clickbaity, you know, edgy title, but Jeremiah. But so anyway, this is the book of Jeremiah 51 verse 7. Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of our wine, therefore the nations are mad. Right, and that's why, right. And pretty soon you are going to see a lot of whereas like a lot more, right? um so I can try to figure out the best word to use for this. We are going to see a lot more of the separation between Esau, Edom, right? Between America, Babylon the Great, and the rest of these Edomite kingdoms, right? The beast and the whore. You are going to see that separation between them, because all these nations are beginning to see America, Babylon the Great, and hey, with this Donald Trump presidency, and with how Donald Trump is out here burning bridges, right? And with the way Trump is basically driving the US hegemony into the ground, eventually these nations are going to, not only are they going to drop Babylon, but they are also going to, it's going to devolve to hatred, and ultimately them sending missiles on America, Babylon the Great, because that is what is coming next in this kingdom, man. Expect Babylon to be isolated from the rest of the world through its own, as we can apparently see from what's going on with Trump, its own policies and its own decree that it is pushing with all these ridiculous ass tariffs, right? And with these mad declarations that Trump is making about annexing different countries and so on and so forth. So let's keep going into it. Jeremiah 51 verse 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Right, so amen. Babylon is not healed, irregardless, or rather regardless of what you do. No matter what decree you push, no matter what legislation or anything that you try to, or any legislation you try to pass, right? No matter how much you try to pretend to be sincere and try to pretend to push some righteous decrees, America, Babylon the Great is not going to be healed, and you are not going to deliver yourself from the judgment which the Most High Yahweh is going to put on you. So with that, I will end the video right there. Once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashi Ba'asham Rakakwadash Wa Abad Babal Shalom.